Mandy and I welcome you back to the 8th day of Lent. I'm so proud of you for coming back every time. We have talked about a lot of things in that first week of Lent, right? We talked about what sin is, Jesus' sacrifice. We talked about confessing our sins. We talked about how Jesus forgives our sins. Okay, so now we understand why Jesus had to come. And I wanted to go through all that because it's important before we read all the events leading up to Holy Week and eventually his crucifixion and resurrection. It's important to know, why did he even come? Why did he have to go through all that? Because we have a sin problem, don't we? But remember, his sacrifice is going to wash all our sins away. So now let's start with John, and we're going to see where Jesus comes into Bethany, and this is what starts off the whole events of Holy Week. John chapter 12, Jesus anointed at Bethany. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus arrived at Bethany, where Lazarus lived, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. Here a dinner was given in Jesus' honor. Martha served, while Lazarus was among those reclining at the table with him. Then Mary took about a pint of pure nard, an expensive perfume. She poured it on Jesus' feet and wiped his feet with her hair, and the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. Okay, so let's back up a little bit. Earlier in John, you can read about when Jesus came to their house. Lazarus, his good friend, had 2 sisters, Mary and Martha. And remember when he came to visit? Mary was doing what? Sitting at Jesus' feet. And what was Martha doing? Busy in the kitchen, which is not a bad thing, right? But Jesus said that Mary chose the better thing because she sat at his feet to listen to what he was saying. God always wants us to be listening to him over being busy doing things. It's good to serve, but we have to make sure we have our own quiet time and our own Bible study first. That's how we get filled up with love and joy and peace, and we get knowledge because we learn what we should be doing. So always make sure you fill yourself up with his word first, like Mary did. Sit at his feet, and then you can go be busy helping other people. And then remember the other story, Lazarus died, and Jesus took 2 extra days to get to Bethany. And he did that because he wanted to make sure Lazarus was dead for 4 days in the tomb. And then he called him out, and Lazarus rose from the dead, which got a lot of more people excited about Jesus for sure. So that's the little family there with Lazarus and his 2 sisters. And so Jesus is once again at their house. So when she put the nard on his feet, it filled the house. But one of the disciples, Judas Iscariot, who was later to betray him, objected. "Why wasn't this perfume sold and the money given to the poor? It is worth a year's wages." He did not say this because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. As keeper of the money bag, he used to help himself to what was put in it. "Leave her alone," Jesus replied. "It was intended that she should save this perfume for the day of my burial. You will always have the poor among you, but you will not always have me." Meanwhile, a crowd of Jews found out that Jesus was there and came not only because of him, but also to see Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. So the chief priests made plans to kill Lazarus as well, for on account of him, many of the Jews were going over to Jesus and putting their faith in him. Ooh, such an exciting story already, and I love it. Mary is there again at his feet. So we see Mary 3 times at Jesus' feet. First of all, when Jesus came to the house, she sat at his feet to listen. Second time, we see her falling at Jesus' feet, asking, "Lord, why did you let my brother die?" right before he raised Lazarus up. And now for the 3rd time, we see Mary at Jesus' feet again. This time she's pouring perfume and she's using her hair to wipe his feet. She is preparing him for burial because she knows that he is the king that is going to die for the sins of the world. Less than a week before the Passover, Jesus and his disciples were in Bethany again, having dinner with Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, who had recently been raised from the dead. While Martha served, Mary anointed Jesus' feet with costly perfume and wiped his feet with her hair. This was an act of amazing devotion and love. But as we'll see, some didn't appreciate such an extravagant sacrifice for Jesus. The same is true today. Judas Iscariot, the disciple who would betray Jesus, was indignant regarding Mary's gift. He chastised her for wasting perfume that could have been sold for 300 denarii, about a year's wages, and donated to the poor. But John tells his readers the truth, something that the disciples apparently didn't know until after the fact. Judas didn't care about the poor. He was a thief. He was in charge of the disciples' money bag and used to steal from it. Adding 300 denarii to the piggy bank would have meant more cash in Judas's pocket. And that's true even today. Sometimes people go do amazing things and they sacrifice and they help other people. And I think people are mainly just jealous about that and they complain about it or pick at it or say they didn't do it right. When somebody is offering somebody else a gift, just be glad for that. I mean, and shake your pom-pom and say hooray and cheer them on. We all need to be serving more and not being jealous of each other serving. In verse 7, Jesus rebuked Judas, telling him to leave Mary alone. Her actions had prepared his body for burial, which was only a few days away. For you always have the poor with you, but you do not always have me. Providing for the poor is a biblical mandate for God's love. Of course, the Bible is talking about those who are legitimately poor, not those who are poor through their own laziness. See 2 Thessalonians 3. But Jesus reminded them again, dealing with poverty is an unending reality in this sinful, fallen world. And this really was not to prevent them from honoring their long-awaited Lord and Messiah, who would only be with them a short time longer. This story is also in Matthew 26, so I'm going to read it. It has a little different take on the end there. When the disciples saw this, they were indignant. "Why this waste?" they asked. "This perfume could have been sold at a high price and the money given to the poor." Aware of this, Jesus said to them, "Why are you bothering this woman? She has done a beautiful thing to me. The poor you will always have with you, but you will not always have me. When she poured this perfume on my body, she did it to prepare me for burial. I tell you the truth, wherever this gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will be also told in memory of her." So I love it. Jesus thought it was such a beautiful act of worship that he said, wherever the gospel is preached, everyone will be told about her in memory of her. And here she is in Matthew, and it's saying that. And so we also need to, like I say, give credit to people when they do nice things. Not that they're doing it to earn their salvation, but people help people all the time. And I think so often we just kind of brush it aside or, like I said, maybe get jealous of it. So he's saying what she did will be told to everybody. And now everybody knows because Matthew wrote it down. So let's just get out there and serve more people. When they learned that Jesus had raised Lazarus from the dead, crowds of people wanted to get a glimpse of the ex-corpse. Because of Jesus' miraculous deed, many of the Jews were deserting the Jewish religious leaders and believing in Jesus. How did the chief priests respond to this? They decided to kill Lazarus too. Their wickedness knew no bounds. It's just kind of crazy, isn't it? Here's a woman who wants to show her love to Jesus and worshiping at his feet and pouring fragrant perfume on his feet, which is actually preparing him for burial. And people are criticizing it. And then you've got Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead, and over here you got the religious leaders. They're criticizing that so much that they want to kill Lazarus and they want to kill Jesus. So I don't know. It's just so crazy. But I'm just really glad that Jesus went through with the sacrifice. And I want you to come back tomorrow, because we're going to talk about Palm Sunday and his triumphal entry into Jerusalem. So come back again tomorrow, and we'll see you then. I would also love to answer any question you may have about how to put your faith in Jesus, the Christmas story, Easter story, anything at all. You can contact me through my website, which is Nancy Joy to You. That's Nancy Joy, the number 2, the letter U.com. You can also email me at nancyjoytoyou@gmail.com. Hope to see you tomorrow.